Yo, 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 yo. This is candibknittin. I'm Candy B. I be knitting. And today, I hope y'all are in the mood for more of a talky, less showy, because I want to talk about that feeling when you really don't feel like knitting or crocheting or spinning or whatever your craft is. A lot of people popularly refer to it as mojo and losing one's mojo. Um, Crocheters always say crojo, which I think is cute, but I don't think knitters have a cute nick. It's just knitting mojo. But how this manifests with me is I just get into a space where I don't feel like working on any of the projects I have going, and I'm just like, do I hate knitting now? Do I hate the projects I'm working on? What is going on? And usually I stop. Like that's my first instinct when people are like, "Hey, I've lost my mojo. What should I do? I really don't feel like working on this project." I'm just like, if you don't feel like doing something, don't do it. And so I had every intention of showing y'all a completed simple sweater. This is my simple sweater by TinCanKnits I've been working on. And I'm just kind of losing steam on it. I'm literally Ooh, I'm sorry for all the scraping. It's the double pointed needles. I've finished one sleeve. I got into my mind that I wanted to do the cuff double length so it'll fold over. And I'm almost done with this sleeve. It's just going so slow. Like, and not even like in a reasonable way. Like, I could have finished this if I really wanted to, but I'm just, like I said, I'm not trying to force it. And so basically, what happened is, if y'all don't know the story of this sweater, this is Knit Pick's palette, and I had my kids kind of pick the striping sequence. But then I got to the point where they picked the stripes on this sleeve, and then all I had to do was duplicate it on this sleeve. So I've kind of lost some of the spontaneity and the fun of the project, and I'm like, oh, I just gotta finish this ribbing and then bind it off. Then I'm gonna have a bunch of ends to weave in, and so I I'm starting to feel that pressure a little bit of like, oh, I'm on YouTube. I should finish this. So I have finished objects for my YouTube channel. And it's just like, but that's not natural. That's not real. That's not how I create. And so I'm just like, I'm just going to take my time. And when it gets done, it gets done because I don't want to like start to like resent my knitting. And so, yeah, like like going back to kind of like my thought process, it's like, okay, let me just stop and see where I'm at. And so last week I kind of went through each of my projects here on the YouTube channel, and that's my next thing I do. I'm like, okay, let me stop doing what I'm doing. Let me look at what I'm working on. Are these things that I still want? Are these things still things that I want to work on? And absolutely, I like this sweater. I want this sweater. I'm not gonna just rip it out because I had a bad day. And so then it's like, okay, well, what else could be going wrong? And it's like, I believe I have 4 active projects right now. And previously, I've told y'all I'm more of like 5 to 6. And looking at it, I'm like, something is off. And I'm just like, I'm missing something in my repertoire right now. And one, I have less projects than I usually have. 2, when I really take a step back, I started this sweater the day after Christmas, December 26th, and now we are in the first week of February. So I've been solidly working on one big project for over a month straight, which is unheard of for me. So I should give myself a little bit more grace that, hey, you've been going really hard on this and you've made a lot of progress and you've been focusing on this one thing. And that's not normal for me. And so let's be real with ourselves. Also, that internal cycle I have of starting new things once a month. And so I started a project at the end of December, didn't have a big cast on for January. And so it's like, oh, this would be the natural time I would be looking back at what I did last month, looking at the month forward, and doing a new cast on. So that's an okay feeling to have. Um, and so then I'm just like, okay, well, what do I want to be working on? What do I have going on? Because for me, I'm a big casting off can be very satisfying in one way, but if I had to choose which one gives me the most zhuzh, it is casting on, because in the beginning of the project, I'm doing a lot of problem solving and a lot of calculations and a lot of thought, and I do enjoy the mental stimulation that comes along with knitting. I enjoy a good puzzle, and so I'm like, okay, obviously I want to cast something on. What am I thinking about? And then I go back and I look at the list I've made and the thoughts that I've had. I did a whole video about things I wanted to make with my hand spun. Haven't cast on a single one of those projects. I did a whole video about how I have a cardigan that I hate wearing and I want to knit myself a new cardigan. Haven't started on that. There's a couple of gift giving opportunities that are coming up. I could be casting on for that. And I'm just like, I really don't want to make any of those things. And it's like, I am, rechecking in with the person I was a couple of months ago, and I don't think I'm the same person. And so then it's like time for some self-reflection. And so like the next thing I do, like my first thing is to stop, take stock, look at the landscape, as it were. And then I start to look for inspiration. And the way I find inspiration is actually sitting down with my yarn, sitting down with my fiber, sitting down with my books, looking through things. Obviously the things I thought I wanted to make, I don't want to make anymore. And so like, okay, what do I really, really, really want? And then I got to thinking about how last year I talked about, 1, Stephen West is my favorite designer. 2, I didn't make nearly as many things for myself as I thought I would, and then that I wanted to make. C, and this is less related, I did want to make more shawls, but this thing I'm about to show y'all is not a shawl. So I'm thinking my next big cast on after I finish this sweater I'm working on, the simple sweater, is going to be, I don't know if this is a good picture. I'll just show y'all the picture. This is West Knits Best Knits Volume 2 sweaters. Because I think it's because I got the Chow Goose now. It's just like I feel like I'm on a roll with sweaters. And I'm thinking I want to make... Oh, this is a good picture. This is called the Enchanted Mesa. And it is absolutely ridiculous. It kind of reminds me of the Doodler. It has like this kind of skewed short row eyelet situation, and it's kind of goes into what I'm learning is called a swancho look. It's a sweater and a poncho together, so the yoke tends to be very long, like you have a poncho on. Poncho is like a, I don't know why I'm trying to tell y'all what a poncho is. Like I'm gonna be like, and then I'm doing a bad job of explaining it too. But it's a sweater without sleeves basically. But then a swancho would be a poncho with little sleeves coming out of it. And I've seen a lot of people on Reddit especially making fun of this look because it's like this long yoke and then it goes into these short sleeves, and it's kind of like almost like a T-Rex type situation. But it's like, to me it's so ugly, it's cute. Like I just need something really ridiculous. Like I need to knit something that's gonna put a smile on my face, and I feel like this might be the thing. And I like that it calls for a DK weight yarn, but the needles are larger needles. Like it goes for like it's a DK weight yarn on like size 8 needles. And I think there's directions in the pattern about gauge and getting different sizes for different gauges, but I think it's going to work really well for hand spun because working a smaller yarn at a larger gauge is going to be a lot more forgiving for a hand spun that might have some unevenness in it. And so my next step is going to be eventually when I get that's the other thing too. I haven't had a lot of extra energy. Like I get home from work and I just like, I guess I'll just work on this sweater because the mental fortitude to set up my Swift and Wine yarn and then start swatching it, blah 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 blah. Long story short, I need to figure out when and how I'm going to do this because I do want to swatch for it because it's going to be one of those it could go terribly wrong with the wrong gauge because of the swan show look to it. Also, he always has instructions for, hey, if you want it to be longer, or and he talks about doing a turtleneck look or doing a folded collar, and so all of that is going to, how much yarn I have is going to feed into that. The other thing that I decided, I actually did immediately cast something on because I was just like, I just need to cast something on just to feel something. And so I made the Joy Mittens by Brandy Cheyenne Harper, and those are mittens that have an antler cable pattern on it. And I've been wanting a matching hat, and I was thinking, oh, I could just do my regular hat pattern and then use Brandy's chart for her cables on the hat, and then I would just have to kind of math it out. But recently I've been singing the praises of TinCanKnits app, and they have added their free Antler Toque pattern to the app. And so I am now knitting the Antler Toque, which is very simple, like it's the same cable motif. And so I will have matching hat to my mittens. And if y'all recall my Joy mittens, they're purple. And so I have this Knitting for Olive mohair. I'll tell y'all the color. It's called Dusty Violet because everything's dusty these days. It's 2024. Everything's got to be dusty. And then I have this kind of like worsted Aran weight, kind of rustic type yarn. And this is Highland woolen spun yarn, 100% virgin wool. What color is it? Delphinium is the color. And so it's just going to have like a nice little halo. I feel like these colors go really nicely together. And I'm literally not even to the brim, but I figured this might be when I'm playing like a dragon or what have you. This will be a nice in the round type situation until I reach the part where I'm doing the cables. And then when I get to the cables, I'll actually have a knitting project that has a little bit more something to it than just knitting stockinette in the round. And so that was my compulsive cast on for the week. The other thing I started thinking about, and I just started knitting because that's the kind of person I am, is I've been kind of going on and on and on about knitting a sweater for Mr. Rulude, and I think I've been overthinking it, and that's another thing that kind of depletes my mojo, is when I get too up here with planning things, I'm not actually doing anything, and so like I am depleting mental energy when I could be expelling physical energy, and it just is a mismatch of energies. And I've been overthinking it because I'm like, oh, I need the perfect yarn, it has to be the perfect color, it has to be the perfect pattern. I have like this idea, my imagination of this like seamed sweater, and it's gonna be so amazing, and he's gonna love it, and blah blah blah. But I think I just need to knit him something, and I say that because the more I build up this perfect sweater, I'm not buying yarn, I'm not getting a pattern, I'm not committing to anything, and it just becomes this idea that goes on and on and on and on. And the second part of it is I've never knit him a garment. Well, no, that's not true. I knit him a cardigan, but it's very different than what I'm imagining for this sweater. And he's also has lost a significant amount of weight since I knit him that cardigan. And so, and that's another part of the story too, is that, he wants something that fits the body he has now. And so it's going to take measuring him and all this kind of stuff. And I think I just need to knit him a garment. And so if y'all recall this simple sweater, this is all the Knit Picks palette. And this green color, this like appley green color that my ribbing is in, is not Knit Picks palette. It is a mystery yarn I got from the thrift store that looks a lot like Knit Picks palette, but I know it is not Knit Picks palette. And previously I had this green color I made story time. I made the Allay jacket by Brittany Cheyenne Harper, and one of my big beginner mistakes was it is a bulky weight jacket, and I was just like, oh, it's bulky, so I'll just hold a bunch of yarn together to get bulky weight. And I didn't take into consideration grist, which is the amount of the weight of a yarn versus its yardage. And so when you start holding yarn triple and double and triple and even quadruple, the it gets a lot heavier than if you got just a chunky weight, bulky weight, extra bulky yarn. You'll notice that a lot of like the bulky weight yarn, like a size 6 yarn in the craft store, tends to have a kind of a lightness and a fluffiness to it, and a lot of fingering weight yarn tends to have a lot more twist in it and be a lot denser. So when you start holding a bunch of fingering weight together, you're gonna get like literally like you're knitting with rope. And so I ended up with this cardigan that was oversized, super heavy, didn't have a lot of shape to it. And so I ended up frogging it, and I wanted to frog it especially because I wanted to use the green that I used in this sweater. And so I ended up frogging that whole sweater, reclaimed the green for this sweater, and so now I have a bunch of bags of this, which is it's a bunch of different yarns I held together, but the main gray color you're seeing here is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and I have a metric butt ton of this stuff. And so it's not the fanciest yarn, it's not the most attractive color in the world, but I think it's going to make a really nice kind of like workhorse sweater for Mr. Roulout, and it give me an idea of his sizing and what he likes in the fit, what he likes in the shape. And I'll make a nice little practice run. Also, he's got about like a 40 inch chest. Last time I measured him, I have about a 38 inch chest. And so if he doesn't like the sweater, or if he doesn't end up wearing it or liking hand knit sweaters, then I'll just have an oversized sweater that I can wear that has, you know, a few inches of positive ease. Because he wants it to be fitted to him. So it's going to be little to no negative ease on him, which would be a few inches of positive ease on me. So it's kind of a sweater for me, if you will, you know, if I think about it from that perspective. And so I have so much of this, and it's a decent yarn. I mean, it's Knit Picks. It's nothing to write home about. And it's the superwash wool of the Andes. And so he'll be able to machine wash it too. And we can see how it wears and all that kind of stuff, and where he is pilling and where things pull and all of that stuff. Because the cardigan I made him is more of like he has like almost like a duster, you know, like an indoor when the AC is going in the house kind of look, but this would be more so to wear to like work and out and about. And so I do want to kind of get into that. The other thing is my spinning, and that's the thing that kind of really can drag me down sometimes, because spinning does take longer, because, you know, I'm picking out the fiber, you know, I'm planning, you know, the actual how I'm going to spin it. I'm going to, you know, long draw, I'm going to spin it across the top, am I going to do a fractal, et cetera, et cetera. Then I'm sitting down and I'm spinning it, then I'm plying it, then I'm, you know, finishing it, then I'm actually, you know, thinking about what could I knit with this. And so that whole process has such a time horizon on it that I can overwhelm myself. You know, if I'm sitting at the wheel spinning this thing and I'm thinking about the literal pounds of fiber that I have that I want to spin, that I want to get into, but I'm like, okay, I got to finish this thing first. So I'm just complaining to y'all. I don't have an answer. I want to be as transparent as possible, because that's the purpose of me having this channel, is to talk about, like, not just be like, oh, I made this, and then I made this, and I made this, and I made this, and everything's great, and everything's perfect, and all I do is plow through projects. Like, sometimes I have maybe 15, 20 minutes at my wheel a day, and I chug along, and then I make a little bit of yarn, or, you know, yeah, it is what it is. And so right now I have those plying pairs on my wheel, and I kind of want to get through that because I mentioned this last time, I didn't show it to y'all. I have that Valentine's Day yarn that I spun up that I was like, oh, that would make great color work. And so I have this Gotlin, and I've got about 8 ounces of this, and this is going to be my next big wheel spin, and hopefully it'll become something I knit with. This is the Gotlin. It's got like this charcoal color. It's like super lustrous, super silky. I'm going to have to put a lot of twist in it because it literally just kind of like falls apart. But it's like super duper, like next to skin soft. So I think it's going to make something really, really nice. And so I'm really, and that's the other thing too. Like I'm working a project that I like, and I was like, oh, this project was nice when I started it, but then the minute another idea enters my head, I'm just like, oh, but then I want to do this, and that's gonna be even nicer, because this is the person I am now. And so at this point, I'm just gonna start rambling. So I'm gonna stop it here. Hopefully y'all found something that y'all can maybe relate to, and hopefully you're not like, oh, I just want to see finished objects and I just want to, see everything be perfect. If I'm going to be doing these weekly, I think there's going to be some weeks where it's just me rambling and talking about more of like the creative process. So y'all let me know. Do y'all have are y'all able to just knit, crochet on like the same project and just get it done? Or do y'all have these esoteric, moments of, oh God, let me know what y'all creative process look like. What do y'all do when y'all have, I guess the knitter's equivalent of writer's block. Continue that conversation in the comments, or you can email me, candibknittin@gmail.com. Hit me up on the Instagrams. I'm at Rulude on Instagram. The Ko-fi is at Rulude as well. Like, subscribe, do all of the YouTube things, etc., etc., etc. Peace.